Hey, all you Golden Eagles, you're listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. I'm your Thursday show host, Skylar Angus Barker. We've got a great show coming up with some information about Samuel Olden talking about returning to Yazoo City after World War II, and Simeon Gates reporting on sagging enrollment at USM and plans to reverse that trend. And don't touch that dial because Dr. Olivia Friedman will share some things that you don't want to miss.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online. Sponsorship comes from American Graphics. Located at 8 Commercial Warehouse Drive in Hattiesburg, American Graphics provides custom screen printing and embroidery. They can be reached by phone at 601-602-2277. And the website is goamericangraphics.com. American Graphics, printing at its finest.
Beginning Sunday, 4:16 at noon, is a new show on Southern Miss Radio. It's called Don Rodney Radio's Rhythm and Blues Show. Hi, I'm Don Rodney Radio Vaughn, an alumnus of the University of Southern Mississippi, where I earned a PhD in mass communication. You'll hear great R&B artists and learn about them on DRR's R&B show every Sunday from noon until 2, starting April 16th on Southern Miss Radio. It's going to be a thrill.
In USM campus news, Bear Point Bayou adds unique features to USM's Gulf Park campus. When you walk through the beautiful University of Southern Mississippi Gulf Park campus in Long Beach, you may stumble upon Bear Point Bayou. This body of water is home to many plants and animals, not to mention its rich history to the area. If you look closer, you may see bluegill sunfish, bass and catfish. Frogs, including tree frogs, bullfrogs, and several toad species can be also found around the bayou. Many turtles also find Bear Point Bayou their home, including red-eared sliders, yellow-bellied sliders, and the Gulf Coast spiny softshell turtle. The National Center for Spectator Sports Safety and Security continues to strengthen foothold in industry. Since 2006, the National Center for Spectator Sports Safety and Security has established training and protocols to mitigate potential risks associated with high-attendance venues. Housed at the University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, NCS remained the nation's only academic center devoted to the study and practice of spectator sports, safety, and security. NCS Executive Director Dr. Stacy Hall says that while the center has experienced considerable growth over the past 17 years, the focus has not shifted. Hall supports the sport and entertainment industries through training, education, and research, and outreach initiatives. However, our training and educational resources have evolved over the years to address industry needs and emerging threats. In Hattiesburg news, fire at apartment complex under investigation in Jefferson Davis County. A fire at an apartment complex in Barnes Avenue in Bassfield is under investigation. According to the Jefferson Davis County Sheriff's Office, the fire in the Bassfield apartments was reported around 10:30 a.m. Wednesday. The Sheriff's Office said 4 apartments were impacted by the fire, and 1 is a total loss. One resident reportedly lost everything and is displaced. Arson is suspected, and a person of interest has been identified. Vietnam War veterans honored during ceremony at Camp Shelby. Hundreds of veterans of the Vietnam War and their families were honored Wednesday at the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby. The museum and the Mississippi National Guard hosted a Vietnam War Veterans Day ceremony. Speakers included Tommy Lofton, Mississippi Armed Forces Museum Director, and Major General Jansen D. Boyles, Mississippi's Adjutant General. In national news, on Monday there was a Louisville bank shooting. Louisville officials have released audio of 911 calls about Monday's deadly bank shooting, including a call from the gunman's mother, who said that she did not know where her son would have obtained a gun. The audio comes a day after police released body cam footage showing the tense police confrontation with the gunman. The mass shooter, who was killed by police, legally bought an AR-15 style rifle at a local gun dealership, authorities said. It's still not clear what provoked the 25-year-old bank employee to go on a deadly rampage and live stream the gruesome attack. His family told a CNN affiliate he struggled with depression, but that they had no idea he was plotting the shooting. The city was holding a vigil Wednesday evening to honor 5 victims of the shooting. It is with a heavy heart to see so many individuals suffer during and after these catastrophes. Please keep the victims' families in your thoughts. We'll be right back with your sports and weather after a word from our sponsors.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mr. Sippy Beverages. Mr. Sippy Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mr. Sippy Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mr. Sippy Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
Are you in a hurry? Well, I am. But as a paralyzed veteran, I had to overcome incredible challenges just to regain my independence and return to work. Finding a parking space shouldn't be one of them. Illegally parking in spaces reserved for people with disabilities is not only wrong, it's against the law. So please, think twice before pulling into a reserved parking spot. Even if it's just for a minute, it's 60 seconds too long. This has been a public service announcement from United Spinal Association.
What's going on, Southern Miss Radio? I'm Austin, aka Smooth Oz, with 4th Street Sports Show. Me and the crew are back on Mondays at 5 p.m. Yes, Mondays at 5 p.m. Tune in to 88.5 for all things Golden Eagles athletics and a fun-filled experience with recaps and interviews from coaches, players, and administrators. Mondays at 5. Don't forget.
Welcome back to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. Now on to your sports. Big Pink Volleyball is back April 25th. Big Pink Volleyball is back. Grab some friends, form a team, and get ready to have some fun with our 48-inch pink volleyballs. The 6th annual Big Pink Volleyball Tournament will take place Tuesday, April 25th from 5:30 to 10:30 p.m. at the Payne Center on the Hattiesburg campus. All proceeds benefit the Pink Ribbon Fund, a local nonprofit organization that provides compassionate financial assistance to Pine Belt residents for the diagnosis and treatment of breast cancer. All ability levels are welcome, and no prior volleyball experience is needed. Registration is $50 per person and includes an event t-shirt. Teams should have a minimum of 4 people to play. For questions, email markkrager@usm.edu. Track and field heads across the country. A few Southern Miss track and field members will head to Azusa, California to compete in the Brian Clay Invitational hosted at Azusa Pacific University at Cougar Stadium, April 13th to 14th. We are thrilled to have the opportunity to compete with some of the top competitors in the world. We've had a strong start to the season and are eager to build on it. And assistant track and field coach Nick Gibson. Let's go Eagles. Baseball student tickets are now available to be claimed for this weekend's series versus James Madison. These tickets will be claimed fast. Baseball tickets will be available to claim on a first-come, first-served basis utilizing your online account. To keep up with all the Golden Eagle sports activities, head on over to southernmiss.com. Now on to your weather. This evening will be cloudy as showers move into the Pine Belt. Temperatures will fall into the mid-60s this evening. Rain will be widespread overnight, as overnight lows will bottom out into the upper 50s. Tomorrow will be wet and rainy as Gulf Low moves ashore and into the Pine Belt. Rain will be likely for most of your Thursday. Highs will be in the upper 60s to low 70s. Sunshine will return to the Pine Belt on Friday. That will help to warm us up in a low 80s. Showers will return to the area on Saturday as a weak cold front moves through the state. Highs will be at a low to mid-80s, and Sunday will be a little nicer with partly cloudy skies and highs in the upper 70s. Next week will be great with sunny skies and highs warming up into the low to mid-80s. Up next, we have Samuel Olden talking about returning to Yazoo City after World War II. Check it out.
This is Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage at the University of Southern Mississippi and supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. I'm Bill Ellison. After serving in the Navy during World War II, Samuel Olden returned home to Yazoo City. He recalls being invited to join a new government agency called the Central Intelligence Agency.
I stayed around Yazoo City during the winter of 1946-47. One evening, a special delivery letter came. You have been recommended to us because of former foreign service and known loyalty to the United States. It was the formation of the Central Intelligence Agency. But anyway, I went up wondering who had even sent for me, and when I opened the door to the office of the person who was to interview me, here was this grinning naval officer who had been with me in a draft of 10 officers who had been sent back from Europe at the same time at the end of 1945. He was the one who had brought me in. He was organizing the Latin American section, and he knew, of course, that I had been in Ecuador. And he wanted me to consider working with him. So I did. I signed up and began my work with the Central Intelligence Agency.
To hear more, visit MississippiMoments.org or just like us on Facebook. Mississippi Moments is supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. The humanities are for everyone.
That was Samuel Olden. Coming up, we've got a special guest that you don't want to miss.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mr. Sippy Beverages. Mr. Sippy Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mr. Sippy Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mr. Sippy Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
Beginning Sunday, April 16th at noon is a new show on Southern Miss Radio. It's called Don Rodney Radio's Rhythm and Blues Show. Hi, I'm Don Rodney Radio Vaughn, an alumnus of the University of Southern Mississippi, where I earned a PhD in mass communication. Students need to listen to and learn about Mississippi Delta blues artists, the primary R&B category I feature. Don Rodney Radio's Rhythm and Blues Show every Sunday from noon until 2 on WUSM FM 88.5 starting 416.
Hey Southern Miss Radio, this is Charlie Luttrell from the 4th Street Sports Show, a student sports radio show and podcast covering everything going on in Southern Miss athletics. Our group is back this year to keep the coverage going and bring you a fresh perspective on your favorite teams. If you want to catch up on all the sports events and hear from the players and coaches themselves, then make sure to tune in to Southern Miss Radio 88.5 every Monday at 5 p.m.
Welcome back to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. Now, please give a warm Golden Eagle welcome to Dr. Olivia Friedman. Hey, Dr. Friedman, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
That's great, that's great. And for anyone that doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I teach here at University of Southern Mississippi. I teach creative writing in the English program. And my novel, Here Lies, just came out last year.
Wow.
And the paperback is coming out on Tuesday.
That's fantastic.
I'm really excited about the paperback coming out of the novel. And this is my third book.
Wow.
I have a book of poems. That was my first book. And then a book of short stories.
Right.
And this is my first novel. So I'm in my 5th year here teaching at USM.
That's amazing. And we already discussed a little bit about how you are teaching here at Southern Miss, but can you tell us why you chose Southern Miss specifically to provide your talent and your heart?
Yeah, I love teaching creative writing, and I love teaching literature as well. In addition to creative writing classes, I teach world literature, English 203, which many non-majors take as well. And I was really drawn to the program for a few reasons. One, we have a really, really blossoming creative writing program, both at the undergraduate level and the graduate level. At the undergraduate level, there are so many things happening in that undergraduate community. They have a creative writing club going, and you don't have to be a major, an English major or anything. Anyone can come to the club. And we have great poetry and fiction classes for students to take, and it really helps them kind of form their own community, you know, within a big university. And that really was something that I did when I was a student that really helped me. And then we also have a fantastic graduate program. We have an MA and a PhD in literature and creative writing. So having that here really drew me as well in the Center for Writers. And then my family is from, and I grew up in Louisiana. So I'm very close to, we're 2.5 hours away from Baton Rouge, and so I get to see family a lot as well.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. And I know that I have talked to students that are a part of creative writing classes and are part of like pursuing creative writing for their degree and their career, and I've seen some of their works, and it's breathtaking how much they put themselves onto the page and being able to dedicate not only the truth that they have, but the truth that they want to share to the public. And I think that's an absolutely beautiful thing that you're doing here at USM. And I do understand that you've published multiple books, and I wanted to do a little thing with you where I wanted to read a review that came from each of your books, and I just wanted you to say about like how that book was for you and that journey for writing it and overall, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah.
Awesome. So there's a book, Disasters of the First World, and it goes quotes by saying, Claire's debut short story collection explores the lives of varied characters, lovers, families, and tenants, the links they forge with others, and the odd, confounding worlds they inhabit. And these thoughtful tales, Claire, winner of the Rona Jaffe Foundation Writers Award and the O. Henry Prize, presents characters who, instead of begging for sympathy, seems to desire clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about Disasters of the First World and that journey it took for writing it?
Yeah, I love writing short stories, and that's something we work on in fiction, with our students here as well, whether you're working on short stories or a novel. And I came to short story writing through poetry. So when I started writing short stories, they seemed so long to me because I was writing these really short poems. So when I started these short stories, these were some of my very first short stories, I was trying to discover what it meant to write with characterization and, and what it meant to bring in, because I didn't have characters in my poems, you know, so bringing in characters, bringing in setting more, bringing in atmosphere. So that's what I was really working with. So I like that about seeking clarity, because I think that's really true, seeking clarity too about people and human interactions, which is, if you're writing in that mode of fiction, it's so much of what fiction is about.
Right, 100%. I really found when I was reading this and I was reading a little bit about this book that the aspect of being able to, the lovely quote of, instead of begging for sympathy, seeming to desire clarity, I think one of the most powerful, but also one of the most damaging things that is happening with society is the fact that we almost try to present things in a way where we want people to understand us and we want people to be able to like listen to us and have a conversation about what's going on. But a lot of things can either be miscommunicated or a lot of things can be like strewed to the side. So it's taking in that sense of begging for sympathy, or it's taking in that sense where we're less human and we're more of like this shouting voice. And I really, really do love the fact that you are pushing forward these stories and these narratives about the truth, about wanting to be able to understand the situation you're in and understand that there are people. And I think that is genuinely amazing. We have another book, The 26-Hour Day, and it goes on to say for the review, our rituals are themselves created by the very objects they mimic to control. Thus, the rituals of poetry were rehearsed by language long before the poems began. Olivia Clare knows and celebrates this numinous reversion. In the midst of her vocables, she speaks for meaning where their meanings are. The 26-Hour Day is a compelling debut. Can you tell us a little bit about the 26-Hour Day and that journey within it?
Yeah, the 26-Hour Day is a book of poems. I'm also a poet, and that was my first book, so I started in poetry. And I love what they say about rituals. I think that's really, really important, especially to my writing and especially to my poems, of just kind of this act of performance, and there's also a lot of repetition there, but repetition with variation. which is a lot of, is, you know, similar to the mode in which musicians work, right?
Yeah.
So I think of it that way, that anytime I'm working with repetition, how to vary it, how to allow it to accumulate.
Right.
And also that word numinous is so important to me, finding what is significant in something that can seem ordinary,
Yeah.
or finding something that feels extraordinary in ordinary or mundane things. And that's
Yeah.
something that I feel like I've really tried to carry through from my poetry to my short stories and then to my novel. Those things have always been kind of fixations of mine.
Right. That's I love what you brought up about like the beauty of like the ordinary and being able to recognize things that we, with how busy life is and how hectic things are, especially with how COVID has just passed us and everything that has been going on and weighing on our shoulders, being able to, as like the popular quote is about like waking up and smelling the roses, it's a beautiful aspect to be able to wake up and be thankful or trying to find thanks in this aspect that you're alive and that the things around you, even though they might seem small and they might seem silly or crazy or stupid or any form of derogatory terms that people would use to love to promote, of just finding that safe space that you have within the humanity of who you were and who you are now in that journey. And that's an absolutely beautiful message.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I think it's also, I tell this to my students here sometimes too, I think it's also very related to mindfulness.
Yeah.
You know, I think writing is very, and anything in the arts is very related to mindfulness, where you're taking that time to really look at something and then describe it, and then describe it in your voice, you know, and what does that sound like? What does your voice sound? It can take a long time to know what you sound like, you know. I'm still figuring those things out too, but yeah, I think there's so much that's related to a kind of mindfulness and an observation, which is one thing that we talk about in my classes first and foremost, is using your senses, being observant, looking at what's around you.
Yeah.
So hard to do now and always. But thinking about what it really means to slow down those things in your life, you know, so that you're taking the time to really look at them.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, and I completely agree. And I know that you have brought your book Here Lies, and it's also coming out into paperback, and it's also having this hardcover. And I wanted to read one of the things about it, which is being Friedman's poetic novel explores mourning, memory, and motherhood in a future Louisiana that has been ravaged by climate change. The reader becomes immersed in Friedman's layer and luscious prose, the vibrant colors of Alma's world. The flowers so real you could smell their rankness, the air brimming with sweet candied stink. Most captivating, though, is the stillness and quiet. Lines that end abruptly and the images that conjure a deafening silence. Representations of the graveyards that no longer exist, but whose absence is haunting, from the New York Times. Can you tell us a little bit about this book that people will be waiting to read?
Yeah, I love that from the New York Times as well. I feel like that review really, it's just so great when you read a review that really is capturing what you tried to do, you know? Especially when they come out early, you know, right when the book is coming out, and then you're kind of holding your breath and you see, okay, they understand, you know. It's such a good feeling, and it's such a good feeling to hear that from readers as well. I'll get emails from readers, and they just, that understanding is one of the reasons why we write, you know, and read, of course. But yeah, the book Here Lies is a novel that takes place, it's in 2042, so a little ahead in the future in Louisiana. I grew up in Louisiana, not in 2042, but in Louisiana, and it takes place in a very small fictional town in Louisiana. And the premise of the book is that because of the effects of climate change, the government has now mandated cremation.
Wow.
So burials are not allowed. You do not have a choice of burial. Everyone is mandated cremation. And so that's kind of the larger premise, the larger scaffolding behind the novel. And then what happens is we follow a young woman named Alma, whose mother has just died, and the government has confiscated the ashes of her mother, and so she's trying to get those ashes back.
Yeah.
So the novel is Alma, figuring out how she can do that, and also making friends who become family along the way in the novel, working through her own grief. A lot of the novel is about Alma thinking about working through her grief, but it's also, and I've heard this from so many readers, which is great, that it's also a novel of great hope and of love. And that means a lot to me, because that's what I meant for it to be, a novel of hope. I wrote a good portion of the draft that became this novel during COVID, in the peak of COVID, I should say. And so I was thinking a lot too about, speaking of rituals of grief, of burial, of funerals, of public rituals of grief. That was all on my mind while I was writing this.
It's chillingly and hauntingly beautiful to have that concept of these like mandated cremations, and having to almost in a sense push down that very feeling of grief, and having this go into this repetitive process where, because of this mandation and because of how speedy things are and because of the chaotic nature of it, it's being able to, I think what we talked about a little bit before, about finding the beauty in the things that we deem are ordinary. And I think one of the biggest things that I deem to be so beautiful, and I think a lot of people out there can agree, is the concept of family, especially the concept of found family. Because I think in a lot of cases, the people that we meet and the people that we talk to, we never know how much that they've influenced and changed our lives until they're gone.
Yeah.
And I love what you're presenting, and I know that anyone listening would definitely want to read it and hear about this story, especially written during the first draft, being during COVID, and having something that they can relate to. And it might be a hard topic to be able to uncover, but it's something that once you get out of it, you can find that hope. And I think that's amazing that you're providing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it really is a hopeful novel, and Alma, the main character, also finds great strength in the natural world. So turning to the garden, turning to what's around her in the natural world, again speaking of the numinous, to find like what's extraordinary in the world. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else that you want to share with our Eagles, either about like what date that the book can be like either ordered or sent, or anything about that?
Yeah, the book can be ordered now at your favorite bookseller. I'm also going to do a paperback signing on May 6th at the Author Shop, which is Hattiesburg, one of Hattiesburg's independent bookstores, which is just a great place to support. I think that's at 4 on May 6th. But yeah, you can order the book from any of your favorite booksellers online, and it's in paperback now, so that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Friedman, for coming on today and providing a voice for our Eagles. And anyone that's listening that heard our conversation, check out Here Lies. You can also go May 6th at 4 at the Author Shop for a signing. Come talk to Dr. Friedman about it and talk about how that experience is. So once again, thank you so much for coming on
today. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Coming up, we've got Simeon Gates reporting on sagging enrollment at USM and plans to reverse that trend. Check it out.
A number of factors have caused enrollment at Southern Miss to drop in recent years. SM2 caught up with Dr. Randall Langston and Dr. Joe Paul for more information.
Since 2010, less students have been enrolling in college nationally. This is due primarily to 3 factors: declining birth rates, the rising cost of college, and the COVID-19 pandemic. This trend is reflected in USM's enrollment numbers, which have been getting steadily lower since 2010. As of fall 2022, there are 13,526 total undergraduates, with the vast majority being in Hattiesburg. Less students means less funding from the state, which could lead to an increase in tuition to cover for losses. it also negatively impacts student life on campus. Since starting at USM, University President Joe Paul has made boosting enrollment his top priority.
We've got to be more creative and create new strategies to be able to counter that and to grow our enrollment. The University of Southern Mississippi is just too fine a place for somebody not to choose to come to school here.
Southern Miss's administration has implemented several programs to increase the student body. For example, they are working directly with community colleges to create a pathway for transfer students. And last semester, USM President Dr. Joe Paul tooled high schools and community colleges across the state to spread the word about Southern Miss. Despite the odds, Dr. Randall Langston, the Senior Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management, was confident the school could turn things around.
We feel pretty good about weathering some challenging times in our country's history, but we're doing pretty well. It's a team effort here. We're all working together here as a university to recruit and retain students.
Simeon Gates, SM2 News.
Thank you, Simeon, and thank you for listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. Huge thanks to Shania Williams, our audio engineer, and Devontae Anthony, our video producer, for keeping this bird flying. Big shout out to our assistant manager, Kelsey Bolden, as well as our assistant producer, Jalen Pagan, as well as our executive producer, Miss Whitney Howard, and our GM, Dr. Wilbur Martin. I'm your Thursday show host, Skylar Angus Barker. Stay golden, Eagles.